In the middle of rural Kansas, a young woman walks home after her night shift and simply disappears. No scream, no struggle, no tire marks. Just a line of footprints leading into a wheat field and stopping cold, as if she stepped off the earth. Police searched the field for days. They found nothing. Not a shoe, not a hair, not a trace. For 15 years, the town whispered theories. Some said she ran away. Some said she was taken. Others said the field swallowed her whole. But then, a violent storm ripped the ground open, revealing a hidden cellar buried beneath the wheat. A cellar no one knew existed. A cellar where investigators found a notebook, a pendant, and a name written on the wall. The name of the girl who vanished. This is the Silent Wheatfield Disappearance. And the truth hiding under that field is darker than anyone ever imagined. This is the Silent Wheatfield Disappearance. Her name was Emily Clarke. 22 years old. Quiet. Polite. The kind of person who apologized even when she had nothing to apologize for. She lived in Meadow Creek, Kansas, a town so small you'd miss it if you blinked at the wrong time. Her family owned a modest farmhouse at the very edge of the wheat fields. Their property line was a thin dirt road that always looked lonely. Emily worked the night shift at Denton's Diner, a place that smelled like burnt coffee and old jukeboxes. She usually clocked out at 1 a.m. The walk home took exactly 17 minutes. Her coworkers told her to stop walking at night. It wasn't safe. Too dark. Too isolated. Too quiet. But Emily always smiled and said, "I like the stars." And that was that. On June 4, 2008, she walked out of the diner for the last time. She didn't know it. Nobody did. Emily started her walk at 1:08 a.m. The air was still. The moon was low. The entire town was asleep. She walked along the asphalt, humming softly, like she always did. At 1:23 a.m., a farmer driving past saw her silhouette. That was the last confirmed sighting of Emily alive. The next morning, she didn't show up for breakfast. Didn't answer her phone. Her bed hadn't been slept in. Her mother called the police. Deputies went straight to the road she always took. And that's when they found it. Her footprints. Clear as day. Leading toward the wheat field. But something was wrong. They stopped. Abruptly. At the field's edge. Like she walked into air and disappeared. No drag marks. No struggle. No tire tracks. No broken wheat. Nothing. The sheriff swore someone must have picked her up. But there were no signs of a vehicle. No sign she ever left on her own. Just footprints. Then silence. The search began fast. 100 volunteers. 2 helicopters. Bloodhounds. ATVs. They scanned every inch of the wheat field. Every barn. Every ditch. Every abandoned structure. Nothing. The wheat was tall, over 6 feet. Dense. Endless. But it wasn't trampled. If Emily entered that field, the wheat would have shown it. Locals whispered theories. Maybe she ran away. She eloped. She wanted a new life. She did it to herself. But her mother said no. Emily loved her life. Her family. Her routines. Something happened to her. Something nobody saw. By the end of the week, the sheriff quietly admitted defeat. The case grew cold. Then colder. Then forgotten. 15 years passed. Life moved on. But the field didn't. It kept its secret. Until a storm changed everything. September 2023. 15 years after Emily vanished. Kansas was hit with one of the worst storms in decades. Tornado winds, brutal rainfall, lightning that cracked the sky open. The next morning, a farmer named Gordon Hale walked to check his crops. And saw something he'd never seen before. A large section of earth had caved in. The wheat was ripped away. The soil was dark and wet. And in the center was a hole. A square, man-made hole. Leading downward. A cellar. Hidden beneath the wheat field. Gordon called the police. And the sheriff who arrived that morning was the son of the sheriff who handled Emily's case back in 2008. His name was Sheriff Daniel Morse. And he knew exactly what had once happened in that field. He walked to the cellar's edge, shined his flashlight down, and saw a wooden staircase descending into darkness. Something was down there. Something the storm wanted to reveal. The cellar was bigger than it looked. Old, carefully built, walls made of thick concrete. A single light bulb that hadn't worked in years. In the corner was an old table, rusty, covered in dust. On top of it lay a single item, a notebook. When Sheriff Morse opened it, he froze. The first page had a list of names. 9 names. 8 of them crossed out. The 9th name was written in a faint, shaky line. Emily Clarke, June 4, 2008. Her name was not crossed out. The sheriff felt his chest tighten. Someone had been using this cellar. Someone who kept records. Someone who knew exactly who Emily was. But the cellar wasn't what scared him most. It was what he found buried deeper inside. Behind the cellar's back wall was a second door, locked from the outside. Sheriff Morse forced it open. Inside was a small room, no bigger than a closet. Dust everywhere. Rusted chains hanging from the wall. An old mattress in the corner. And on the floor, a small silver charm. A moon-shaped pendant. Emily's mother had given it to her for her 18th birthday. She wore it every day. The sheriff's hands shook as he picked it up. Emily had been here. 15 years ago. In this room. Alive. But the real question wasn't where she had been. It was who had put her there. And why she was never found. The investigation reopened instantly. Names resurfaced. Old rumors. Old enemies. But one name stood out, Thomas Lorne. He was a reclusive handyman who lived near the Wheatfield back in 2008. Quiet. Strange. Always working odd jobs. Always alone. He died in 2017, years before the cellar was found. Police had questioned him back then. His alibi was shaky. He had a temper. But no evidence tied him to the disappearance. Now, the evidence was everywhere. He had owned the tools used to build the cellar. He had bought supplies around that time. He had worked at houses close to Emily's walking route. But because he was dead, he couldn't answer questions. Couldn't defend himself. Couldn't explain. And that bothered Sheriff Morse. A lot. The notebook had 9 names. But only one matched a known missing person. Who were the other 8? And why were they crossed out? 2 weeks later, detectives found a small cassette recorder hidden inside a hole in the wall. Old. Damaged. But still usable. They pressed play. Static. Crackling. Then a faint voice. A girl's voice. I don't know where I am. Please, if someone finds this. I heard him. He said he's coming back. Please don't let him. The tape cut off abruptly. Experts later confirmed it. The voice was Emily's. She had been here. She had tried to record a message. She had hoped someone would find it. But no one did. Not in time. What happened after that recording? Investigators believe Emily escaped the cellar, somehow. The broken lock. The scuff marks. The footprints leading up the stairs. They think she reached the field. Think she ran? But the wheat was tall. The night was dark. And whoever took her wasn't done. They believe she was recaptured. Taken somewhere else. Somewhere not yet found. Somewhere she never escaped again. The cellar was only the beginning. The 8 crossed-out names were eventually traced. All 8 belonged to women who had gone missing from nearby counties between 1995 and 2006. Not one case had been solved. All unsolved. All young. All disappeared at night. They were victims. All of them. Long before Emily. The cellar had been active for over a decade. Hidden. Buried. Unknown. The Wheatfield had grown over it year after year. Covering the crimes. hiding the truth. Emily wasn't the first. She was simply the last known. The Silent Wheatfield disappearance became national news. Documentaries, podcasts, true crime channels, endless theories. Emily's body was never found. The other women's remains were never discovered either. The cellar was sealed. The field was bought by the county. A memorial was placed at the site. A plaque with 9 names, including Emily's. 9 victims. 1 predator. A decade of silence. But some locals still whisper that Thomas Lorne wasn't alone. That someone helped him, protected him, watched the road at night. Someone's still alive. Someone who knows where Emily really is. Emily Clarke's case remains technically unsolved. Her disappearance is still open, still active, still painful. Her mother still visits the field every year. She stands where the footprints stop, where Emily vanished, where the earth stayed quiet for 15 years. She always says the same thing. Emily walked into that field. Someone else walked out. And the Kansas wind carries her words across the wheat, soft, haunting, endless. The field stays silent. But the story doesn't. Because silence is where the worst secrets hide.